Hello everyone, my name is Joanna. Thank you so much for coming back. For those of you who are my subscribers, thank you so much for coming back. For those of you who are new, welcome. I hope whatever you find here you will like, and I hope you stay. Let me just be very brief. Interesting messages in the month of March. For one, they flowed very differently. There seems to be a lot of transformation going on, and I do, particularly in the month of March, and it seems to be consistent with almost every single sign. Very, very consistent. So if you are drawn to a certain sign that you don't necessarily look at, by all means listen and see if there's a message there for you. The messages are not time bound, which means there is no end and beginning. These messages may make sense to you because they have happened. You are in the middle of it happening, or it will happen at some point down the road. So do yourself a favor. If it doesn't make sense to you right away, listen to it in a few weeks' time or even a few months. And from those of you who are regular subbies and subscribers and you do comment, it looks like 98% of you find that this makes sense with as time passes. Also, my focus and intention is always, always, always to give you something to think about that will help you understand yourself more deeply. In other words, my focus isn't on predicting. If an information comes through that is of futuristic nature, I am more than happy always to give. However, my focus is more about helping you understand how you create, how you make things happen. Because the moment you know how to make things happen, you will stop waiting for someone to tell you what's going to happen, because you'll be able to create it. And that is always my aim. That is what I want to teach. That is what I do teach. And that is how Spirit is working with me. What can I give you to help you see yourself as the master of your own creation that you are, so that you can understand? And once you understand, you can create in a different way. So that is always my intention, and I hope that whatever comes through falls with that. Let's put it that way. I think that's all I have for you. Listen to the other signs if these don't make sense. Of course, this is general. It may not fit with everybody, although I'm very surprised how many of you are responding and saying this is exactly what you're going through. So also, very quickly, again, the layout is very different. I don't even have a layout this month, and it was mostly intuitive. So you will see some of the messages. I look at cards, and some of them I don't even look at cards because it's flowing. So the way information is flowing for me is also very different. So I am under also a transformation, if you will. And I think that's all I have. Of course, there's a 6-month projection for you down below from January till the end of June. If you're more interested in that information is there. And more than anything, thank you so much for liking, for sharing, for coming back. For those of you who are new, welcome. I hope you stay. Have yourself a wonderful month of March. And yeah, let's get going. Hello, beautiful Virgos. These are going to be your messages for the month of March 2019. Right away, I am seeing the number 7, which to me signifies always the idea of enlightenment. And are you going to be receiving enlightenment in the month of March? It's over a period of time, but I feel this is significant enough for me to say this to you, so that perhaps whatever goes on in your month, in your March, in your life, in your March, and you remember this, you will look at your circumstances and you will try to derive a different view of it, perhaps, maybe a different perspective, that then will allow you to get the enlightenment, or will allow you to be enlightened. Enlightenment often comes through difficult situations, and when we begin to see things differently, when something happens and the occurrence of what's happening is being looked at from a different perspective, and it begins to shape what we're seeing. It almost like it reshapes what we're seeing in terms of the importance of that experience. I'm going to leave that aside. We'll go into it further if it's meant to. But the number 7 is very symbolic of enlightenment, or the proverbial light bulb going on. So if you have been struggling with something in your life, personally, professionally, or somewhere in between, don't be surprised if you all of a sudden have clarity. Now, this clarity may mean that you have to search through some old files, things that are in your dungeon stored in boxes, i.e. memories. And you might have to look into some of those memories for a source of information, because it feels to me like you need to remember something and then you need to reframe it. Reframe is a very psychological term where you see a situation and you see it from a different perspective, and that reframes how you perceive it. So that seems to be hovering around you in the month of March. I see a whole bunch of butterflies on top of you or above you and circling above you. It's almost like there's a whole bunch of butterflies. Butterflies always signify to me the idea of death and rebirth. So it is a freaking transformation. And they're hovering above you. And I feel like you are either in the midst of transformation, which we all are, or a transformation is right on top of you, right? Transformation is about to happen. Now, transformation isn't just one thing that happened. Transformation is generally happens over time, but it is usually when we go through transformations that we review our past. We review significant moments from our past, from our history. We choose to look at it differently. We choose to reframe it. And as a result of that reframing, we are reawakened, and we choose to look at life differently. So that's a big message that kind of is going to embrace most of you. And it can be interpreted in various different ways. But for those of you who are meant to hear it, it's going to resonate with you, with your heart. You may not make a lot of logical sense with it yet, but it will make sense to you. It'll just sit here. I also saw, so these are the phrases that came for you. Use your intuition, which is always very important. Get out of your own head. That was what's important. And the need to be too self-reliant in order to control because you need to be too self-reliant. That's something that's coming up. So the idea around control and self-reliance, there is some sort of transformation in that area. So whatever circumstances are happening in your life, or whatever is going on within you that has any connection to being too reliant or needing to be very reliant, which is extremely fiercely independent, or the need to control, if you are dealing with any of those aspects in the excessive form, chances are this message will be for you. I wrote a heart, and I wrote the way I drew the heart, it had a line through it which tells me this is about healing your heart. It's about healing emotions. These are not things that will be happening in a month of March. These are things that have happened a long time ago, but March and several months later will offer you the opportunity to release it. So imagine a heart and there is a cut through it, and then the heart healed, but there is a bit of a scar. The scar is what I'm being looked at. And scars are things that, well, scar tissue is not very pliable. Scar tissue is not very elastic. So scar tissues often bring discomfort. Now, this is a metaphor. Remember, this is a metaphor. So whatever scar tissues you have from your past that are connected to emotional healing, I feel you will be able to bring some more resolution to it, or you will resolve it completely, starting with the month of March. I have to say, with all the signs that I've done, and you're my last one, there's something significant in the month of March, either because I'm getting information that is completely in a different way, which is true. The quality of the messages that I receive is very transformative, or there is something, so it's either me or it's, and I'm transforming, and that's the message that I channel, or there's something happening in the month of March, April and May. There's those, spring seems to be very potent for transformations, and all the signs that I've seen, pretty much similar message. All right, so let's move on to some of the cards. What are some of the things that are important for you to know in the month of March? Well, metamorphosis in reverse. So there's no question, this is about transformation. The butterflies, here we go. Here's butterflies. So if you're not going through it yet, it is nearing you. Now, transformation is not a bad thing. Transformation is usually a phenomenal thing, except the process during which we are being transformed may not feel particularly comfortable at times. So the message says, just because you are feeling uncomfortable, that does not necessarily mean the worst case scenario is to be expected. As a matter of fact, you might want to look at why you would expect the worst case scenario first. For one, it's indicative to our human nature. We tend to go with the worst case scenario first, but it's also to do with our upbringing. We look at things that are the worst in order to prevent ourselves, to protect ourselves from it, to prevent it. But the very fact that we spend the energy and time focusing on it to prevent it, we get stuck in it and bring more of the same. So if you are experiencing transformation, if you are going through the death rebirth process, this is not a physical death, chances are things might get really bumpy. Things might have been really bumpy, particularly emotionally. Some things in your life might be changing. You might be having or are currently having the proverbial tower moment where your foundation, your stability is being uprooted, and that never feels very safe. I am not saying this is what's going to happen. You're in the middle of this, and if you're not right in the middle of this right now, chances are you're already perceiving that some change is coming. Maybe you're feeling it. So this is not a prediction of something going wrong. As a matter of fact, I say quite the opposite is true. Transformation usually leads to good things, but the process of us going through it generally makes us feel slightly uncomfortable because stuff comes up. When I asked what this is about, the Five of Wands came up. So Five of Wands is about a battle, either a battle with other people or a battle with yourself. Generally, when we battle with other people, it's because it is reflective of the battle we have with ourselves. But this is more when we are wanting to avoid any sort of confrontation. And if you have been one of those people, if you are one of those people that tends to avoid uncomfortable things and confrontations, chances are you will not be able to do that in your moment of transformation. Because when we do not confront things, these things don't go away. They momentarily may be quieted, but they'll always come back. So if you have had any resistance towards standing up for your beliefs, standing up for what you believe is right for you, standing up for yourself, standing up for yourself in your family, on your environment, if you have been avoiding it, chances are that in itself is going to be transformed eventually. Effectively, you will become your own leader, and you can be a leader in a huge company, but you can also be a leader in your life. In fact, if you're not your own leader in your life, chances are that's why you're undergoing this transformation. So beliefs have a lot to do with it. Obviously, we already know that. Is there anything else I need to say about the Five of Wands? I hear it's complicated. It's always complicated. It's never simple, is it? Of course, it's always complicated because we overcomplicate things. But perhaps that's why you are being asked to get out of your own head and let your intuition guide you instead. So why might this be happening? Well, the idea of being too self-reliant is coming up, and you may be in a position where being too self-reliant got you into a pickle. it got you into a place which you feel now you can't get out of. You are in some way, shape, or form stuck. And in order for you to get out of that stuckness, you need to stop practicing being you. In other words, whatever it is that you are trying to save yourself from by being extremely independent, extremely self-reliant, focusing on the fact that you got to do it, nobody else but me. It usually comes from the sheer need for independence, and I don't mean desire, I mean need for independence, stems from usually a place of not having it at some point. And usually with that comes a certain level of needing to assert control. And we assert control for various reasons. One of the main reasons is that it makes us feel like our life is in control. But at the end of the day, if you really think about it, we can have control over very little. Really, the only control we have over is ourselves, our actions, how we respond to what the world serves us, and that's pretty much it. You can't control an outcome. You can only control the process that eventually leads you to an outcome. So I'm going to leave that for a minute. Maybe I'll come back. Now, some of the things that you might want to be thinking about. It's really interesting. You've got the leap of faith. What is a leap of faith? Well, leap of faith means taking a leap of faith and trusting that there is something bigger than you, something smarter than your head, something more aware than your current level of understanding you and the world that is going to guide you. In fact, there always is. It's called your intuition. And you see this person standing there. There's a lot of orange and yellow. Those are all indications of second and third chakra. Second chakra being about safety and security as well as creativity, but also trusting yourself in situations with other people. Perhaps one of the reasons why you have been alluded to needing to be self-reliant is because somewhere at some point people have severely disappointed you and you realized you can't trust. And as a result, you needed to take control in your hands. You needed to control your own world because, well, you can't trust anybody to do that for you but you. Unfortunately, there's a price to pay with that, because with this sort of reasoning comes a certain level of expectation, and that is you expect that there will be no one other than you in the world to help you carry your burdens or your weight, your heavy weight on your shoulders. And that can be a pretty lonely world. And I feel that's what you are transforming out of. That also means if this is how you have been, then you have not confronted your past. Then that means your past is still ruling you. You still live in the past. And until you decide to stop to continue base everything on your past will not stop repeating itself. So you are being encouraged to take up a different practice of being you. Whatever it is you're practicing right now, that is you, that you call you, and it's connected to things that are not working, then you might want to start creative ways of being a different you, a different version you, a version 1.2 instead of 1.1. It is also suggesting here that you might have to you don't have to do anything. You might want to take a leap of faith on something that has been gnawing at you for some time. Perhaps you wanted to try something different as a hobby, maybe as a job. Maybe you wanted to try a different path, a different living location, a different type of work, a different healing modality. Whatever it is, there is a leap of faith being signified, meaning trusting your own intuition. And we did get that at the very beginning, that one of the phrases for you was use your own intuition and get out of your own head. Leap of faith has nothing to do with logic. Well, yes, we logically make the decision to take a leap of faith, but oftentimes when we take a leap of faith is we don't have enough data stored in our mind to let us know that it's going to be okay. That's why trust is so significant here. Chances are it has a lot to do with creation. You creating something new. You're creating a brand new environment for yourself. You're creating a brand new identity for yourself, a brand new structure in your life, a brand new way of doing things. Whatever it is that has been keeping you where you are right now, but this is not where you want to be, try something different. And that requires you to take a leap of faith. Notice the number 7 here, 5 and 7. 5 is indication of changes. We all know that. Well, maybe you don't. For those of you who don't, to me, 5 signifies changes. 7 is number of, again, transitions and enlightenment. So 7 is coming up again. So for some of you, whatever, if there's any decision or choice that you're needing to make, try to get out of your head. Instead, listen to your intuition and try not to make choices and decisions based on your scars. Instead, take a leap of faith. Now, I would never ask anybody to take uncalculated risks. Always take a calculated risk. If you see a risk and it's evident that the risk is too high, then you may not want to take that chance. But that is not what I'm talking about. Those are things that intuitively tell you, go ahead and try. And just going back to that example of of high risk, if it's high risk, your intuition, and it's not meant for you, your intuition would be aligned with that. It would say, no, don't do it. So leap of faith. Now, guess what comes up next? Get out of your head, linear thinking. This is about you expanding on how you think. You moving past your current thought limitations. You see this figure here, very seesaw almost like structure around this person and numbers. Very calculated, very rigid, very devoid of feelings and emotions, all in the head. We live in a time right now where logic alone will not produce results that we want. It's just not going to happen. Because as we move into this, whatever that's called, fifth dimension, let's use that as an analogy. Fifth dimension, the vibration of fifth dimension is heart-centered. This is logic-centered. This is intellect, pure intellect. And if we are trying to shift our perspectives, which will eventually shift our realities, then we have to get out of our heads and move more and beyond and into our heart space, which is our feeling. The heart knows no fear. Fear comes from the head. It is our thoughts based on our experience and our past that creates these thoughts. So it is about being more heart space, which is also where intuition is mostly. Intuition is a feeling. Intuition is your God self. Whatever you believe God is, it doesn't matter. You can be a giraffe for all I want, for all I care. Doesn't matter. But it is about looking beyond your strict or very rigid way of thinking. Again, the 3 and 2 is 5. So there's a number of changes here. But metamorphosis or transformation is a sign of change. So it's all one and the same. A couple more cards came up. The arrow is a message of watching your thoughts. So this message, right? This vision, which is it's not a sword, an arrow pointing up, is talking about using your mind, and you're using your mind in with clarity and with being succinct. In other words, with clear direction. When it's in this position, it means your thoughts have control over you in such a way that it doesn't serve you. Very similar to this message. Very similar. So it is about using your thoughts in a way that serves you. And to give me the example of the past and past hurt, it would be not very smart to, I'm going to give you an example. If you burn yourself in a fire, chances are you're not going to stick your finger into the fire again because it hurts. So you've learned a lesson. You kind of know that you have to, be careful, right? So it would make no sense for you not to acknowledge that, when you stick your hand into a fire, it hurts, right? So nobody says forget what you experienced, stick your hand in a fire again. No, it's going to hurt again. However, are you going to avoid fire altogether? Just because it hurt that one time, are you going to now avoid it altogether? Perhaps you can find a different way to work with it. So that's just the analogy that I want to kind of give you. In other words, yes, your past has shaped you, but it doesn't have to keep defining you for the rest of your life. So if you have, again, any scars from past experiences, which we all do, but if these inflexible scars or inflexible ways of looking at things are still prominent in your life in a way that you still base your choices and your decisions on what has happened, then you're going to be transformed. You're going to be asked to let that go. It doesn't serve you any longer. Take the lesson, get the wisdom from it, apply the wisdom in the future, but don't avoid life altogether just because you got hurt. And the word "you got hurt" is taken in a huge context, so it can apply to anything. Somebody disappointed you, your mom wasn't good to you, your dad abandoned you. It could be a gazillion different things I could mention, but you guys get the picture. So this is about being very watchful on where your thoughts take you. Do your thoughts point up, meaning are you a positive person? Do you look at situations with positivity first? Or do you always look down and expect the worst? Because if that is your expectation, then that will be pretty soon your confirmation. And we're all moving, and this direction is very headspace. In order for you to have leap of faith, you want to use your mind and your logic in a way that is, much more clear of clutter, and clutter meaning from the past. The hummingbird, I kid you not, I think showed up in every single message, maybe with the exception of 1 or 2. It is unbelievable. Aside from the fact that this is one of the most incredible creatures that I think exists, it is a sign of taking flight. It is about soaring above waters. Waters to me here, turbulent waters to me signifies emotions, dark emotions, pain, the muddy stuff from the past. It is about no longer being held back by whatever has been in the past. It's about soaring towards this sunset or sunrise, sunset, either or. Sun is a very masculine energy. Depending, I guess, on who you ask. Some say it's feminine, but it's very warm. It's very bright. When you see the sun in spring, when there's more sun, the trees start to grow. You see the leaves, the grass, everything is greener. Everything looks brighter. Here, the alternative is dark and gray with just not a lot of oomph. So you're being asked to let go and release of what no longer serves you in terms of whatever it is that you're tying yourself to your past, whatever disappointments, whatever hurts, whatever pain. Do not discount the learning. Do not discount the experience. By all means, draw conclusions and draw wisdom from it. But draw wisdom and move on. Don't let that keep you stuck. And you may not necessarily be stuck, but when you live here, your future can't be very bright. It's too restricted. This is not a person that would just take, for example, an impromptu date to go dancing when they've never learned how to dance before. This person wouldn't do that. they would just stay in their own little box. So maybe you should learn how to dance. Maybe that's one of the things that they're trying to say here. Maybe relax and do something silly, and yeah, go learn how to dance even if you've never danced before. Make a mistake. It's okay. Be vulnerable. It is okay. Make it fun. Get out of your head. Huge. Anything else I want to give them? Separate yourself from insignificant thoughts. What does that mean? Any thoughts that make you feel insignificant, less than, number one, see where they come from, but number two, what would be required of you in order not to have those thoughts? You have these thoughts because you action that belief. So what belief would you have to action in order not to have these thoughts about you? And that's something for you to think about. And with that, I'm going to leave you. The number 15, which is the devil, is coming up. So that's about attachments. Release your attachments. Release yourself from attachments. Detach yourself. All the same thing. And then I'm seeing the star, which is a sign of hope and rebirth. Total balance, emotional balance, free flowing of emotions, nothing being stuck up. This is not free flowing. There's nothing free flowing about this guy. Nothing. Okay? And I wish you a wonderful month of March for private sessions. That information is down below. Thank you so much for watching, for sharing, for liking. If this doesn't make sense to you right away, do listen to it a few weeks later, because I have a feeling this will connect with a lot of you, if not most of you. Above all, thank you so much once again. I wish you best of luck and see you soon. Bye.